Welcome to the Thrive TV show with Lauren Parsons, helping you boost your health, energy, and productivity.
Hi there, and welcome to another episode of the Thrive TV show. I'm Lauren Parsons, your host, and today I'm joined by Verity Price, all the way from Cape Town, South Africa. Nice to have you here, Verity.
So good to be here, Lauren.
Amazing to connect with you because I know you are in hot demand right now because just weeks ago, Verity won the World Championship of Public Speaking, which is just phenomenal. And I have a lot of people that I know through Toastmasters that have been aiming for that goal, and just hats off to you. You had an incredible winning speech. And just for listeners that may not be familiar with Toastmasters, Toastmasters has an international contest that has over 30,000 people take part, and Verity just cleaned up. So how are you feeling since then, Verity?
I'm still taking it in, Lauren. I think with these big achievements, I'm not sure if it ever completely settles. It's incredible. And the only thing, and this is a strange thing to relate it to, but for me, becoming a mother was as unlikely as winning the World Championships of Public Speaking. We did years of infertility, we did IVF, and when the doctor phoned and said it had worked, it was the same as hearing you are the world champion of public speaking, because, you know, so many people want it, but you're not guaranteed that it's going to happen. So I think I'm just going to be taking it in for a very long time.
Wow, just incredible. So I'm thrilled that you are chatting with me today because we're going to talk about how to write a different story, which is very closely linked to Verity's winning speech. I encourage everyone to go and check it out, and I'll include the link below. But the three things we're going to chat about are how Verity really shifted her life by applying positive psychology, 5 habits for happiness, and some insights on how our brains can help or hinder us. But before we dive into that, I would just love to ask you my this and that questions. Is that okay?
Yeah, let's do it.
Fantastic. So cats or dogs?
Cats.
Cats. Oh, spots or stripes?
Stripes.
Stripes. Nice. Mountain or lake?
Lake.
Nice. Logical or creative?
Creative.
Lovely. Would you rather boiled, fried, or poached eggs?
Fried.
Fried. Nice. Singing or dancing?
Both.
Both. Oh, that's actually a common answer. I like that. A fresh salad or hot vegetables?
Oh, fresh salad.
Okay. An introvert or extrovert?
Extrovert.
Nice. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. So just to tell people a little more about you, back in 2005, Verity started her journey as the first musician with a tenacious foresight to get online crowdfunding for an album that she had not even recorded yet. 15 years later, and a career glittered with accolades, brings us to 2021, her latest big first, where she was the first speaker from Africa to ever be crowned the world champion of public speaking, the 6th woman in history. So her talent for acting out the box rather than merely thinking out of it has brought international success for Verity, speaking globally on innovation and thinking differently. Her winning Toastmasters speech, A Great Read, which is an inspiring invitation to improve our lives by writing a different story, was phenomenal. So I encourage you to check that out. Today, it is such a pleasure to speak to you. So do you want to just tell me a bit about what stands out to you from that journey of preparing for and winning that speech? I'd just love for people to hear a bit more about your journey.
It's been such an incredible journey, Lauren, because some of it was very practical and methodical and logical, and a lot of it was quite magical. So the start of this journey for me was November last year. I wrote a speech for my Toastmasters club, and after I delivered it, I thought, that could be a contest speech. And about 2 seconds later, a voice said, "You could win the World Championships of Public Speaking." And I was like, whoa,
wow,
who said that? Where did that come from? So that was why I entered, was I had this sixth sense that maybe I had a speech that could take me all the way to the finals. And so I kept listening to that inner knowing, and that's why it's so funny. I keep saying it was almost like becoming a mother. There was many reasons why it probably wouldn't happen, but I mean, I had a baby at 44, so I really had to trust in miracles. And so I just kept showing up, but with this urge and this drive that I had to give it my all. So from March until August this year, I probably worked an average of 2 to 4 hours a day on my speeches, rehearsing them, delivering at the clubs, working with my mentor and my coaches.
Yeah.
And I just kept this little thing inside that I think I can take this all the way. When it started getting interesting was when other people started messaging me saying, I've just seen your speech. And that was my semi-final speech. So not the one that I won with. And saying,
Yeah.
have you got a second speech? You're going to the world finals. And there was about 5 people that did that. So I thought there's something going on here. So I just kept showing up and I gave it everything. I've never worked so hard in my life. And I didn't even know what that speech would be, because you need a second speech for the finals. You have one speech you work with for 6 months to win the semi-final, hopefully, but you need a much better speech. And then that's like you've already written a great speech. How do you write a better speech? And when my final speech came to me 100 days before the world finals, it was 100 days to the day that I woke up one morning and I wrote the speech. Something in me went, oh, this is what you've been waiting for. And I still had to work on that speech for 100 days to get it to the best version of itself. But it really has been a lesson of learning to listen to that voice that thinks you can do more than the small scared parts of you don't think you can do, and just show up. And it's been extraordinary, absolutely extraordinary.
Just amazing. So for those people that are not familiar with Toastmasters have local clubs all around the world. So head to Toastmasters and Google it and look it up. And it's an amazing organization that's all about helping people to become better communicators and better leaders. And they have contests just for fun, and also so that we can hone our skills. And they do a lot around a 7-minute speech. So as Verity said, she had to win at her club level, and then at the area level and the regional level, and then what's called the district level, and then go on to at the international regional level, then being a semi-final. And then she had to deliver another phenomenal speech to actually win against, 7 other people who had also gone through that process.
Yeah.
So it was just the best.
And I was the only woman. I was the last woman standing.
Yes. Yeah. Tell me about that. How did that feel?
It was quite interesting. There was a lot of women in the semi-finals, which was exciting for me. There's 28 semi-finalists after a starting field of, as you said, over 30,000. But when I got to the top 28, there was actually a lot of women. There was 4 of us in my semi-final. It was fantastic. But then when the results came through as to who the 8 finalists were, and I suddenly saw I was the only girl left in the running, and then I met all my finalists in a briefing, and they were these big, strapping professional men in their suits and their beautiful voices. I was like, whoa. Definitely got my work cut out for me. But my coach actually messaged me the night before the finals, and he said, you are the only woman in the field, and lean into your authenticity, lean into your message, trust that you're exactly where you need to be, and it's going to take you really far. And it was such a lovely message to get, and go, each person is unique, and we just need to bring that.
I love that. And I'm sure that there is so much in the detail of you. When you said that 100 days out, you wrote that speech, I can just imagine how much it changed over those 100 days. I don't know how many iterations or rewrites there were, but everything comes down to really scripting it out to be basically word perfect, doesn't it? And then it's all about that delivery and being so authentic. Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, I had 32 written versions, but my speech was honed through feedback. It was created through feedback. The version I wrote versus the version I delivered was because I spoke on 5 continents to more than 50 clubs around the world while I was practicing.
Wow.
And the feedback that I received, that I had to have the grace to listen to, that was also a big lesson in this. Like, can you listen to feedback? Can you work on something you're already quite committed to, thinking this is great, and change it to meet your audience's needs? And so that's what I did. And the only reason I had a winning speech was because of the people that helped me create it.
That's great and so humbling to hear. Wow, how amazing journey. So because I know we were going to talk about positive psychology and all these things, I'm sure our listeners want to hear some of your wisdom. Just to link, and as we segue into that, can you share, just, I guess, what is the key message from your winning speech? I'd love to hear it in your words for our listeners.
So the key message in my winning speech, and it's very much my personal journey with depression and anxiety and not being happy with how my life looked when I turned 40, which I think many people can identify with. Sometimes we think our lives meant to look this way, and then we're over here going, well, this is not what I planned. And I was someone who was really miserable about that. And finding a letter from my father, who was a naturally positive man, just telling me that, you know, your life is a book. And if you're not enjoying the read, write a different story and then watch for a miracle. And that was his message to me. And so I started taking inspiration from his attitude and how he was positive about really difficult situations in his life. And I started looking at my life going, how do I say this in different words? How do I talk about this situation in a more positive way? And as I started reframing the different areas of my life, as I started getting grateful, my life did change. And the biggest lesson for me and for everyone, I believe, is that we don't always have control over our circumstances, but we always have control over the story we tell about them. And that's when you become the author of your life.
I love that. So tell me, what are the key things that you've learned about positive psychology, which for those that are listening in, they might have heard of the study in the field of psychology, which traditionally was always about taking people who are ill and getting them up to being okay. And positive psychology is all about improving the human condition to help people to flourish from wherever they're at and lift the bar for the human race. This is, I guess, paraphrasing what Martin Seligman talks about it. So I'd love to hear in your words, what are the keys from positive psychology that you've used and how's that helped?
Just maybe two things that for me were groundbreaking when I discovered them through delving into positive psychology. And I studied psychology, and as luck would have it, I graduated in 1997 and positive psychology was born in 1998. I was like, really? So I spent 3 years studying depression, anxiety, schizophrenia, when I could have been studying what makes us well, what makes us flourish, what makes us happy. But why I found this work so exciting is that the research, and this was Sonia Lobanovsky, they've got lots of very interesting Polish surnames, but she looked at what she calls the happiness ratio and what gives us or causes happiness in our life. And this for me is when it gets really interesting, is that only 10% of our happiness comes from our external circumstances. So I can know the car you drive, the house you live in, how much money you earn, who you married to, where you go on holiday. And I can only accurately predict how happy you are by 10%. And that's quite scary because we live in a world where all we're being done is sold, buy this, own this, do that, then you'll be happy.
Yes.
So that was a really big piece, is that only about 10% of our happiness comes from our circumstances. 50% is genetic, so we don't have control over that. We're born that way. And 40% comes from the choices we make on a daily basis. So regardless of your circumstances, regardless of your genetics, 40% of your happiness is in your hands. And that my speech was exactly that. When you write a different story, when you speak differently, when you choose to look at your life in a new way, things change. So I think that's a really important like ratios for people to bear in mind. And it helped me to stop chasing the external things, even external things like winning the World Championship of Public Speaking. I'm on the other side of that. So if I take a stressed version of myself to that accolade, there's just going to be a stressed version of myself being able to say I'm the world champion of public speaking. But if I take a happy, aware, mindful part of myself through that, that's who's on the other side. The accolade doesn't do anything. It gives you a few days of joy, and then life carries on. So I think it's important we break that illusion that there's anything out there. That I think they say getting married has a 2-year impact on happiness before we go back to what we were before. So it's the choices we make every day. So that's the one thing to remember. The other thing is that in the research they've done over the last 20 years, they can comfortably now say that they look at people's lives over time, that only 25% of your success, your actual success in life, because it's important we equate being happy with being successful, not being successful with being happy. We'll put it that way.
Absolutely.
25% of your success comes from your IQ and your skills. So what you've studied, how clever you are, they said that's going to contribute about 25% of your long-term success in life. 75% of success comes from 3 things that every single human being has and every single human being can improve. And those are your optimism levels, which we'll talk a little bit about later as to how do we get those up. The next is, how do you see obstacles as opportunities? So people who see obstacles as opportunities, they are going to be more successful. You can be sitting there with a Harvard degree, but if you're going, this is a problem, I can't solve it, your IQ is not going to help you. And you can have, I mean, coming from Africa, I see people coming out of townships with nothing who turn their obstacles into extraordinary opportunities and experience success. And the third thing is the strength and the level of your social connections. And probably one of the biggest breakthroughs in the last few years is going, social connections are paramount to happiness, but also to creating success, because these are the people we reach out to. Even if we're in lockdown, you know, we've got Zoom. Do we connect? Do you and I brainstorm? Do we solve our obstacles? Do we turn them into opportunities? And by doing that, we feel happier, we get better results. So that for me is the key foundation of understanding that only 10% of your happiness is coming from your external circumstances. 40% is in your control with your choices. And the choices that matter are looking at obstacles as opportunities, connecting with your significant people in your life so that you have a strong sense of love. And in so doing, you're going to boost your optimism levels and start experiencing the success that you want.
Beautiful. That's like a mini speech there. That's a mini speech and a beautiful recap.
There is a keynote. There's a long keynote in it, so apologies if that was too much, but hopefully it's useful.
No, it is. It's so useful. And I think, you know, I talk a lot about optimism, so that's right up my alley. What I would love to hear is, you know, for people listening in going, wow, that sounds amazing. I want to leverage that 40% that I have influence over. Can you give me some practical things that perhaps you do, daily practices? What are some of the nitty-gritty things that someone could actually listening in right now decide to do as of today, as of tomorrow, that will make an impact on their optimism and on their positivity?
Absolutely. So there's 5 key, very simple habits that have been shown to make a big difference. And they are really easy. They don't have to take a lot of time, and anyone can do them. I can tell you some of them are hard when you've got a 2-year-old running around. So I've had to choose the ones that work for me. And I think all of us, our lives are a juggle. Number 1, a big one, is exercise. So when we exercise, it shows our brain that our behavior matters. And it needs to be exercise you enjoy. They've actually done a lot of research as to, do you get any positive impact from doing exercise that you see as a chore? And it's like, ugh, and it's not good for you. So rather go for a walk with a friend or dance around the living room and have fun, you will get the positive impact of that exercise. But something as simple as exercising every day for 21 days, doing exercise you enjoy, can boost your optimism levels. It's also incredible with lowering depression, anxiety. So it's very good for mood regulation.
Yeah.
So exercise is an important one. Another really useful one is journaling, which is quite an interesting process. And this is from there's a TED talk by Sean Aker. If you
I was just about to say, because I feel like you just paraphrased him when you talked about exercise and you're showing yourself that what your body does matters. Yeah. So that, by the way, is my favorite TED talk of all time, from all the TED talks that I've watched. 12 minutes of brilliance, hilarious delivery. And he also talks about these 5 keys. I'm not sure if they're exactly the same as yours.
No, also, they are. No, I'm so inspired by his happiness advantage. So this is Sean Aker's 5 things that I've had thousands of people do, because I share it with them. I share them the video and I say, right, let's do this. And they're game changers. Okay, so I'm just going to repeat, everyone, or you can just go watch Sean, it's your choice.
Yeah. No, let's share it now. I just wanted to pick up on your first one, though, because one thing that you may not know is that I did a talk on how to snack on exercise, which is all about overcoming the time barrier, because so many people put exercise in the too hard basket because they feel like it's this big, long thing and I've got to spend like an hour and a half to get changed and go somewhere and do it. But what if you could snack on it in 1-minute bursts right throughout the day? So if anyone's listening in and you haven't heard of that philosophy, just again, Google it, look up snack on exercise, because it's all about helping you get started. And it's even more so for me about the mental health benefits than the physical benefits.
Yeah, beautiful. So you're exactly there, and it's an empowering choice. It's something you can do every day, and after a few days you start feeling like, wow, look at what I'm doing, look at what I'm capable of, which starts to boost how you feel about yourself and how you feel about life. The journaling part is also a very simple exercise, and the whole premise of this work is to get into a habit of happiness. So you try and do these activities for 21 days and you start rewiring your brain and you start getting into positive habits. So this one just asks that you reflect on the day that you've had, and you write a paragraph down about what the happiest moment was for you. And it could be something really small, it could be something profound, but just through that writing it, you relive it. And what a lot of people do when they do this challenge together is they maybe form a WhatsApp group, and then they're sharing their happy moments with each other. So now you're strengthening your social connections, and you start again getting into the habit of scanning your life and writing a different story. This worked. That's great. Aren't I lucky? So that's the second one, journaling. The third one is mindfulness, which, there's so much out there around how mindfulness, again, calms the nervous system. It gets us in the moment. And again, this is something you can snack on. I love that. You can snack on mindfulness. You don't have to do a 20-minute meditation. You can, do it over a cup of coffee and just be present. Just smell it, taste it. Just say, just for a minute, I'm going to be with this coffee, or I'm going to wash these dishes. Or you can get a mindfulness app. There's Headspace, there's Buddhify, there's hundreds of free things to help you just do a little bit of daily meditation. So that's a big one. And a lot of my clients say that's the one that's a game changer for them. People in very stressed corporate jobs will get hold of me after the 21 days going, wow, this mindfulness has changed my life. So that is a really great one. The next one is random acts of kindness. And that's probably my favorite. Every day you just reach out to one person in your life and you thank them for being them. You maybe surprise them with an unexpected little gift. I sometimes will pay for, someone's groceries. If I see they're struggling to find the change, I'll just pay for it and say, don't worry about it. But you start looking for opportunities to lift other people up. And this is one of the biggest things that shifts people out of depression, because depression is a very inwardly focused experience. That when we start even having to care for a plant or a puppy or just something that requires us be kind and be thoughtful, makes a huge difference. But if you did that for 21 days, you're going to have connected with 21 people significantly, again, improving your social connections, improving your sense of well-being. So the kindness one is so fun. And I have clients who do it sometimes for Christmas. If you do Secret Santa or things like that, they will do a month of surprising their person with little gifts. And you see a whole office, their demeanor just lifts, everyone's laughing. So kindness is a beautiful one. And the fifth habit is the one that completely changed my life, which is daily gratitude. And that's finding 3 things every day that you're grateful for. Write them down, say why you're grateful for them. Sometimes we just say, I'm grateful for my family. But if you continue writing, why am I grateful? That lets you go, oh, they do this for me, they do that. Oh, how lucky am I? And your entire experience of life can change. Your circumstances might still be exactly the same, but the lens that you're looking at them through starts to change. And so that is how you write a different story. Gifting your body with exercise, reflecting on your day and reliving a happy moment, being grateful, noticing what's working, mindfulness, meditating, taking a moment to just be present and being kind to others. Those 5 little habits are game changers.
Yeah, absolutely. And totally agree with all of those ideas. It's very similar, to the things that I, again, am teaching clients and more so workplaces, because it is amazing how these small things can have this amazing ripple effect and cascade effect. And I know Sean Aker talks about, that replaying that grateful thought, your brain doesn't tell the difference between that lovely thing happening and you just remembering it. So we have a rule in our household that no one's allowed to get down from the table until you've shared what was the best thing about your day, and you've asked someone else, hey, what was the best thing about your day? And I've had clients that have come back to me months and even years later saying, oh my goodness, that was such a game changer with my children, with my teenagers, with my partner. So it is amazing how these very small things can make a big difference. Now, I want to ask you as well, because people might be listening in and perhaps they're going through a really difficult time, tragedy, or they're just feeling weighed down by life. If they're listening in and they might think, oh, that all sounds easy for you, Verity, you've probably always been positive. What would you say to people that perhaps, maybe have some doubts about how effective this can be? And I'm giving you tough questions,
No,
but I'm just thinking, you know what I mean?
Question. Yeah. So, perception is such an interesting thing, Lauren, because everyone who knows me outside of my really close circle their perception of me is Verity's got it sorted, she's confident, she's won this competition. And so actually it probably can be quite hard listening to someone like me telling you to be happy. If you follow Shauna Cawsworth, you will also, if you get behind the scenes, the man suffers from depression, he suffers from anxiety. That's why he's passionate about this work.
Yeah.
That is my journey, and it's a journey that is not over. As I said, 50% of our happiness is predetermined by our genetics. My mother was an incredible woman, but she suffered from depression and anxiety. She was an alcoholic, and I have that in me. My father was the eternal optimist, so luckily that helps me when I remember to make good choices. But when I started using this work in my late 30s and as I turned 40, I had days where I would spend up to a week in bed from depression. I would cry for no reason. If I was driving, I'd have to pull over onto the side of the road because I'd have panic attacks. So I have seriously dealt with depression. I was on antidepressants, anti-anxiety medication. And then I got ready to start changing. And along with practicing these habits, and this isn't something I was expecting to talk about, but something that made a huge difference for me was, and I don't know if you're familiar with this, is TRE, which is trauma release exercises, which is an incredible way to let your body process trauma. And I started doing that with a practitioner for about 12 weeks.
Wow.
And suddenly I felt ready to come off my medication, and I started practicing daily habits, and that really, really made a difference. So what I can say is that when life is hard, it's a very real experience, and it's very easy to keep looking through that lens. But when it gets to the point of going, I don't want to keep feeling like this, there are simple, small choices that can make a difference. And everyone's journey is different, but find the modality that helps you, whether it's therapy, whether it's something like trauma release. And the positive psychology is kind of a, yes, do make positive daily choices. It might take a while before you feel differently. My life didn't change overnight, but I sit here at 46 years old as someone who still has down days, and lockdown triggered a lot of it for me.
Yeah.
But now I've got tools. So sometimes I let myself go down that slippery slope, and I stay there, and no one knows because I'm not sharing that on social media. I'm like, look, what a horrible day I'm having. Of course. What do we do? We share like, look how amazing things are. So it's like, it's all right to be down there. I like to think of that as the compost. That rough time of it, that's the compost, and that is growing some exceptional, amazing version of you if you just let it flourish through. But you have to water it, and you have to bring some sunshine in. So whether that's exercise or being kind or practicing daily gratitude, that lets little bits of sunshine come in, and over time all that hard stuff grows something beautiful.
Wow, I love that analogy, and that's so unique that I've not heard that.
Well, I've never said it before.
Sorry?
I've never said it before. It just came now.
Moment of brilliance. See, I really love that, because I love the idea of, sometimes we feel stuck in the mud, or we feel stuck in the compost. And I love that idea of still choosing to get those moments of sunlight and sunshine. I think that's the thing, isn't it? That it's on the days when we're really struggling, because I believe we all struggle. It's in those moments that we really need to lean into these ideas the most. And it's so interesting how our thoughts and the story that we're telling about a situation so determines how we feel about it. Just a very small example. Recently, I was chatting with my mother-in-law and talking about how we're about to do house renovations, and I was going to live with no kitchen, and it was going to be so tough. And I was really like thinking, how long is it going to take? And I was telling her all of my problems. I mean, these are minor problems really, but I was just talking to her about how hard it was going to be. And I was kind of thinking about, what if all the tradespeople run late and it gets stretched out, and how awful it's going to be. And she said to me, come on, Lauren, it's going to be an adventure. And it didn't actually sink in straight away. But later on, after the conversation, I reflected, and I just thought, slap, Lauren, here I am sharing these positive psychology things, talking about how the way that you think and the things that you say, especially about yourself and your life, start to determine, your habits and your character. And I thought, actually, I need to choose that this is going to be an adventure, and it's going to be great. So as we're recording this, I'm right in the middle of that adventure right now. And yes, there've been delays, there've been lockdowns, there's been lots of little things that have happened, but I feel like I have been able to roll with it a whole lot more, because it's felt like an adventure. And it just bringing that mindset to it. It still hasn't been perfect, but I know it's been a whole lot better for my mental well-being than going in with the story, this is going to be tough. Because I think if we think it will be, then often it is.
Yeah, I love that. And it really is, it's a choice. And I had that, so in a more life context, I had that exact experience about turning 40 as a single woman who'd never been married, hadn't had children. And I had a lot of other lovely girlfriends that were also turning 40, and the story was emerging. It's over for us. It hasn't happened for us. And something in me, and this was when I had really started doing all this work, I thought, I'm going to tell a different story about turning 40. And I had at my 40th birthday, my theme was, I am here, not there, not there. This is where I am, and this is enough. And, you know, I have beautiful family, I have beautiful friends, I have a beautiful home. This is my life. It's not the life I had planned, but it's enough. And I met my husband 6 months later, and I really do think it was because I just went, I'm not looking anymore. I'm done. I'm here. It's enough. And when you can change that story, it takes the pain away, because you still have to go through, you know, you still got to figure it out. It doesn't, but it takes the pain away. It's an adventure. I love that.
Yeah. Amazing. Oh, just incredible. I just feel like I want to talk to you all day. But I really value your precious time. Thank you so much for what you shared. One final question I have, because I know you talked about what the brain actually does, you know, how this actually affects the brain. So can you share a bit about how our brains help or hinder us?
Yeah, so I think it's very important, and you mentioned this earlier, our brain doesn't know the difference between real and imagined events. So it works really well to your advantage when you're wanting to make your life more positive, and you just go, I'm going to relive happy memories. I'm actually going to have happy thoughts about the future, and my brain's going to live into that because it thinks that's happening. But unfortunately, and I don't know who said this, but I love it, our brains are Teflon for positivity, and Velcro for negativity. So that sticks. You know, someone gives you a criticism, it's still there weeks later, and you forget the 5 compliments you had. And one of the reasons that is in our brains' search to keep us safe and to keep us out of danger, it does that by noticing threats in our environment. So on a daily basis, our brains are taking in information going, is this dangerous? Could this hurt me? Might I die? And that's why we end up feeling so stressed. And all of that happens right in the middle of your brain, in your limbic system, which is your fight or flight center. And I always use my hands to describe the brain. So if this is your brain stem, right in the middle, your thumb is now your limbic system. And we have this in common with all animals. And this is what keeps us safe, fight or flight. The difference between us and mammals is we've developed a whole brain. And this is our rational thinking, analytical, kindness, all that kind of thing that makes us a happy adult comes from our whole brain. So when we're going through life with our whole brain engaged, we can think creatively, rationally, we can make the right choices. But when we're under threat, bus coming towards me, maybe someone's trying to mug me, whatever it is, this is not going to help me survive. I need to jump, I need to run. So our brain is designed to disconnect. It literally goes, it disconnects, and we go into fight or flight. And then only afterwards you go, whoa, did I just do that? How did that happen?
Yeah.
So again, the problem with this is, yes, oncoming bus, yes, maybe I'm going to get mugged or something's going to happen. That's good. I need that. But I might be talking to a friend and they roll their eyes when I say something. You know, I'm talking to someone, they look at their phone and ignore me. I wake up in the morning and I start reading the news.
Yeah.
And I'm now going through a life with a brain that's in fight or flight. And the behaviors we see when we are in limbic mode is we become attacking, we become defensive, some of us isolate, some of us run away, and some of us submit. And those are all survival strategies. If you're in danger and there's a bigger animal than you, you're going to use one of those. But if you're going through your life at work and in relation, you know, attacking, defending, isolating, leaving, submitting, you're not in control. So only when we have our brain, and this is why we do the happiness habits, our whole brain sees people being creative, it sees them socializing, it sees them playing. There's a high level of play. I'm laughing, we're joking, we're having a drink together, we're telling stories, and I'm eating the right amount of food and I'm sleeping well. That's kind of how you know you're in a whole brain state. If my sleep is good, I'm eating enough, I'm laughing with friends, I'm seeking out community, even if it's just online, and I'm being creative, I've got my brain in a whole state. Gratitude, exercise, mindfulness, journaling, and kindness gets you there. Reading the news, having an argument,
Yes.
looking at this terrible world gets us into, it shouldn't be like this. You just have to go onto social media to be like, wow.
Exactly. And those are all choices,
triggered.
aren't they? We choose whether we do the gratitude or the mindfulness or the movement or the kindness, or we choose whether we tune in and do the doom scrolling and, you know, and even choices. I'm a big one for the whole disconnecting to boost that social connection, because I believe that is so fundamental as human beings. We need that sense of belonging. We are stronger together. So I love that. I just love all your analogies. You are a great communicator, as one would expect. So thank you. So if people do want to find out more about the work that you do, obviously you present online all around the world, how can they reach out to you, Verity?
My website's probably a good place to start. iamverity.com or verityprice.com. They'll get you to the same place, and you can see my different offerings, reach out, we can see what we can do. I love this virtual world because I do get to speak all over the world now without having to travel and leave my baby. So that's good. And then, Instagram, I am Verity, Facebook, I am Verity, LinkedIn, any of the usual suspects. But through my website is good.
Fantastic. So if there's one final thing you'd like to share with our listeners and viewers, because if you're not already seeing the energy, and if you didn't get to see that, if you're just listening in on Spotify or iTunes, make sure you head to thrivetvshow.com, and down below you'll find all of the links through to Verity as well. So head to thrivetvshow.com and you can watch the video TV show version. So one final question, Verity, if there's one last thing you'd love to share with our listeners and viewers, what would it be?
Whenever I'm asked that question, I have a standard answer, because I really believe that we all get to choose if our life is happening to us or because of us. So while we don't always have control over external circumstances, we have control over our experience. And when we choose to look at things differently, to write a different story, to live in gratitude, mindfulness, kindness, we start to make life happen because of us. We have a positive ripple effect on our sphere of influence. So that is the choice that is always in your hands. And I just hope everyone keeps picking up a pen and writing that story.
Oh, that is just beautiful. Thank you for that really inspiring message. One final thing, I'll make sure the link is below as well to Verity's winning speech, which was all about her rewriting her story. And it's hilarious as well. You'll love her stories about being in the spare room and meeting up with one of her perfect friends at the supermarket, and just see how that story evolves. Honestly, 7 minutes of inspiration and entertainment. You'll love it. So thank you again, Verity. Really appreciate you taking the time to connect with me.
Thank you. It's been wonderful. My first trip to New Zealand. One day it will be in person.
I hope that you can come in person. We'll stay in touch and hope to be able to host you here one day. So thank you so much. And thank you to everyone for tuning in. That's been another episode of the Thrive TV show. Go out and thrive.
Thank you for listening to the Thrive TV show with Lauren Parsons. Visit thrivetvshow.com to access the show notes and discover our fantastic bonus content. And be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next inspiring episode.